warm welcome to all our viewers today. We are very happy to have with us today Mr. Aditya Maheswaran. Aditya is a speaker, coach, and consultant who enables businesses and people realize and unleash their potential. Aditya works in a global management consultancy and specializes in leadership development, executive and team coaching, and talent management. He's a TEDx speaker and is an MBA from the Indian School of Business, Hyderabad. In 2015, he became the first Indian representing India to bag the first runner-up at the World Championship of Public Speaking held at Las Vegas, from over 40,000 public speakers who competed from across the world. He has coached numerous professional speakers and business leaders and their teams to maximize productivity and potential. He constantly writes on his popular page, www.facebook.com/Aditya Speaks. So we're very happy to have you with us today. And I'm sure there's a lot for our readers and viewers to learn from your experiences. And we would like to give you a hearty congratulations for your being runner-up at the International Public Speaking event held at Las Vegas.
Thank you, Deepika. It's my pleasure to be with you here today as well.
Mr. Aditya is going to speak and advise us about public speaking for hyper management career growth. Here is the first question. So what are some of the leading management profiles where public speaking is a critical skill?
Right. It's a very interesting question because the popular belief is that public speaking becomes very important when you have a lot of external facing stakeholders. For example, I'm in a sales role, so it's imperative, it's a mandate for me to hone my public speaking skills so that I can be more effective in sales. But more and more as I work with a lot of organizations, a lot of business teams and even non-business teams, I've realized that wherever there is a need to influence, there is a need of communication, right? Sometimes it could come in the channel or forum of public speaking. Sometimes it could be interpersonal skills. Sometimes it could just be knowing various strategies for negotiation. But the principle behind all these is the ability to influence and impact other people, right? And this can be very important even for profiles which are not external facing. This could be relevant even for, say, the HR of an organization. It could be relevant for the IT of an organization. Everybody takes their anger out on the IT department because their computers don't work. So the IT guys require this ability to influence stakeholders to ensure that people respect that department. Finance, for example, again, a support function. They are viewed as close internal functions, but the requirement to exhibit influence becomes very important. And what better a way to exhibit influence if not the ability to speak and influence another person? And as you grow up the organization, whether it be in your functional domain or whether it be in a more general management space, what becomes very important is this ability, capability, interest, and passion in influencing stakeholders, influencing other people above you, below you, in your peers. And we really find that over a lot of surveys and research that the one competency or skill that really differentiates managers from extraordinary managers is something called the stakeholder management. The way you're able to manage your stakeholders. And one of the key skills that we find that effective stakeholder managers have is the ability to have clarity in what they speak, the ability to think from the other person's point of view, which is empathy. And these are principles of public speaking as well. So there are an entire array of management profiles which require public speaking as a key competency. And it's not just restricted to certain external or client-facing profiles. So I think there's a myth that we need to take it out of our head, and so that all of us can be more effective in the way we communicate.
This is the next question for you, sir. How can public speaking assist in putting a management career in a fast track?
There's one question that everybody keeps asking me. There's a question that's asked about MBA and about public speaking, about how can I get into the high potential, fast track growth in my organization, right? Again, if you look at the principle behind this, when you join an organization, you're 22, 23, or some of us 21, some of us 25, but when you join in your early 20s, your work, the task that is given to you is heavily task focused. By that I mean you already are told what to do, and you need to execute it, whether it be writing lines of code in an IT firm, or whether it be on the shop floor in a manufacturing unit. But you're told what to do and you need to execute it. But as you move up in an organization, as you get promoted, as you have people reporting to you, the number of stakeholders that you interact with increases manifold. Sometimes you're no more told what to do. It's very ambiguous. You got to go to your peer in another department and try to get the data from him, and come back here and communicate that with your teams. And you got to go back to your customers and communicate that again. So clarity in thought, clarity in communication, ability to articulate what's in your mind to another department, which is internally viewed as a competitive department. For example, supply chain or manufacturing and quality departments are always viewed as competitive departments, because manufacturing wants to get the product out and quality wants to ensure that there are no defects in the product, right? And what happens as you grow in the organization, you're heading quality, you're heading manufacturing, or you're heading an account management role, say even in an IT firm where you have your on-site team, offshore team, clients asking for highest level of quality. You got to increase your rates for the next year. So you have multiple stakeholders and multiple ambiguous, complex issues that you're put into. And therefore, the people who can survive are not people who are better at Java, are not people who are able to manufacture a product better, are not people who are able to find defects better. The people who are able to survive and get a fast track growth are people who are able to assimilate the entire complexity in their mind, which others are not able to, and then articulate this ambiguity in a way that everybody understands. And by articulation, create a buy-in that everybody agrees to my point of view. And this is an art and a science. The science behind it is, of course, the techniques of negotiation, the strategies of influence, the finding out what is suits you, what doesn't suit you, your strengths and weakness. The art behind this is the smoothness, the knack in which some people do it. Even in our own lives, we observe that when somebody comes and asks us or demands of us something, we immediately say an yes, though you may agree or not agree with it. When other people do the same, we think 5 times, thinking, why is the guy asking? What does he have to benefit out of that? So that's the art of stakeholder management or communication. As you grow up in your career, irrespective of which company you're from, which industry you're from, or what's your role or profile, what's very important is the ability to enroll other people into your agenda, right? If you're head of quality, as I said, how do you make the manufacturing head realize that quality is very important? If you're head of manufacturing, how do you make the quality head realize that, getting the stocking up inventory is not good for the organization? These are things that go beyond just explaining with a PPT or telling them that my department is required. This gets into more influencing negotiation or influencing skills, which the basis of which again is spoken communication, which if done with many people becomes public speaking. And therefore, if you want to fast track in your career, of course, the hard part like doing an MBA or doing a quick course in your technical domain, all that's very, very important. But what's most important is your ability to think in ambiguity, articulate definitely, as well as communicate to create a buy-in, persuade with or without power, and therefore inspire and influence. And this entire chain that I mentioned now are the principles of public speaking itself that I teach people.
So this is interesting. People assimilate, articulate, persuade. if I'm not missing out.
That's right. So there's a popular belief that public speaking starts only when you open your mouth and the words come out. But that's probably like an iceberg, right? What you see in an iceberg is only the 20% that's on top of water. But what's beneath the water is probably 80% of the iceberg, which forms the base which holds the entire iceberg. And communication is like that. What you hear is probably the refined, articulated version of what happens inside. And this is a process that happens simultaneously, what you think and what you speak. And very effective communicators are those who have practiced so much that what they speak is exactly translated into what they think is being exactly translated to what they speak. And therefore, there is no transmission loss, so to speak, in terms of the clarity in what they want to communicate. So therefore, assimilation of thoughts, articulating definitely what you wanted to say, and with the intent of persuading. What I meant with or without power is, if I'm a senior vice president, I have a power to persuade. If I'm probably an assistant systems engineer in TCS, I do not have the power to persuade. Irrespective of your position, designation, role in the hierarchy, you persuade with power because of your speaking skills and with the intent of inspiring or influencing an audience.
Moving on, be it an executive at entry level, a team leader, or a higher managerial level, does public speaking has a role to play in daily work life? If yes, then how can it assist employees across different tiers?
I get reminded of an incident many years back. I was part of this speakers club where I used to be the president of that club, where we used to teach people joining that club, help them in honing their speaking skills. One day a lady walked into that particular forum, and we normally ask them to introduce themselves. And she said, "My name is so and so. I'm a classical dancer." She's a dancer, Bharatanatyam dancer, and she's got a lot of accolades in dancing. She's performed in a lot of stages. And I was very curious. I asked her, you've been on stage all your life. You've danced in front of thousands and thousands of people. Why do you need to learn speaking now? You don't have the stage fright. She said something that still sticks with me. She said, you see, when I'm dancing on stage, I am oblivious of the audience. I don't care whether it's 1,000 or 10,000. I know I can do a great job. I've danced for the last 20 years. But in between my dances, in between the two numbers, I need to spend 2 minutes with the mic to introduce the next number, saying that the next dance is going to be this theme, this is the song behind it, what it represents. And those 2 minutes, Aditya, are the scariest part for me on stage. And after that, for an entire hour, I can dance on stage. That really made me think, because a person who is on stage all her life, yet when it comes to holding a mic and speaking in front of an audience, is scared to death. And she's actually searched and joined a speakers forum for that. Which shows that irrespective of what level we are in, irrespective of what our profession is, whether you be an artist or be an IT engineer, or whether you be a CEO, or whether you be a lawyer, irrespective of what you are, whether you're doing an MBA, you don't want to do your MBA, skills such as public speaking becomes lifesavers for you. Because when the going is good, you don't really feel the need to learn a skill like public speaking, because it's not every day that you're going to be put in front of an audience of 100 or 200 or even 50 or even 10, right? You may have a rare chance once a year to present in front of 50 to 100 people in your company, or MC an event. Or you may be a person who speaks more. You may have your daily status updates with your on-site clients. You may have to present in your MBA classes. But not all of you will have the luxury of having an audience every day. And that's the reason why we don't hone the skill. We would rather hone something like our technical skills or coding skills, or that's the reason you even do your MBA, because it's the skill that you want. But behind all this, when the going is not good, when there is tough times, when you have to for example, when a leader has to lay off people in the organization, when there is a problem in family, when there is a problem with your own team, they are not performing well, they are not motivated, they're demotivated. But these are tough times, and that's when you see the real good speakers or real good communicators uh, are also able to be effective leaders. Because communication is it's a necessary but not a sufficient condition to be a leader, but it's definitely a necessary condition to be a leader. Because I know of no great leader who has not been able to articulate their point of view with clarity and in a way that motivates their people. So it's only when the going is tough, or when the going is there's a sudden crisis, or there is a problem in your team, that you realize that skills like public speaking becomes of paramount importance. I've had teams myself where sometimes the teams have not been motivated. You just cannot increase their reward mechanisms or pay them more to get them enthused, because all of us, of course, work for money, but money is not all that we work for. You need your motivation. You need to have a sense of purpose to the organization that you belong to. In fact, NGOs and non-profit organizations face this much more than others, because their volunteers are not paid. They're doing it out of passion. And when you have 5 people work in a huge project and they're not even paid, what's going to make them motivated and stick to your cause? It's your ability to articulate a clear vision. It's your ability to motivate them and show them the bigger purpose. It's your ability to bring meaning into what they do, and which again comes through effective communication and articulation. And therefore, whether you be an entry-level person, a team leader, or a very high managerial level, public speaking has a role in every level in a different way. Of course, the cost of error at each level would vary. If a CEO lacks the necessary skills of stage speaking, then probably there's a huge cost to the organization. But if a new entry-level guy cannot speak, it's fine. The cost is much lesser. But that's from the organization's point of view. But from a personal point of view, personal growth's point of view, it's very important to be able to articulate well. As human beings, the only channel we have to express ourselves to others is through words and body language. We don't have any other sensory communication channels yet. I hope it comes and it will solve a lot of problems. But as of now, all we have is words and body language. And if we're not able to mold that and shape that and hone that, then we are missing out a lot of ease that we can put into our own lives.
There's a lot to learn from what you have said. Yes, art and science, and how important public speaking is in our daily lives. There's much more to explore. And yes, maybe our readers and audiences would pay attention to honing this skill of public speaking much more.
Oops.
Moving on, how can the budding MBAs and management professionals develop their communication skills early in their careers?
Right. That's a great question. So one thing I've realized through my own experiences on stage and off the stage, through public speaking and otherwise, is that there are certain skills that we have to learn only by doing. It can't be learned in a book or in a classroom. Like, for example, you can't learn swimming through a book. You may read the book 15 times and you may know exactly which angle your hand needs to be and which angle your head needs to turn when you're above water. But if I throw you in the swimming pool, you may still drown. So you need to practice it in water. Very similar is public speaking and communication skills in general. You really cannot attend a training program and master communication skills. You really cannot read a book about 17 ways to be an effective communicator and master those skills. You need a platform, a forum where you can continually practice and hone your skill, get a good feedback. So I would suggest budding MBAs or people who are actually in their MBAs now, or management professionals, young guys, to find forums which are where it's okay for you to fail. I learned public speaking in a forum called Toastmasters. So it's a forum which is completely celebrates when you fail. You go on stage and you forget your speech. You go on stage and you're nearly frozen because you're scared. People clap and applaud and give you effective feedback, progressive feedback, reflective feedback, so that you can go back and you'll never do the same mistake again. Unfortunately, you can't make such mistakes in your real life, in your work life, because the moment you fail, you're branded, you're labeled, you may miss that year's promotion, you're the only thing that's talked about in your appraisal is that one moment where you did not do something well. So you're much more scared to learn openly, and that's why suddenly you've already worked for 12 to 15 years, but you realize you've never really concentrated on some of these skills that you like, but you are afraid of because of the fear of failure. So find a forum for yourself, a platform which is where failure is an option, and then fail, and one day you'll realize what works for you, what does not work for you, and then you'll embrace your best. Another lesson I would like to tell people is to embrace their best. A lot of us, especially when it comes to communication skills or public speaking skills, have role models. We want to be like another person. We want to be like that one boss that we had, or we want to be like one role model that we have. In fact, when I won the first runner-up at the World Championship and I came to India, I found a lot of people coming up and telling me, both on social media and in person, Aditya, how can I be like you? How can I speak like you? How can I be the next you? I smiled, and in fact, I was cringing inside, because if I had many years ago wanted to be like somebody else, probably I wouldn't have become me, what I am today now. So I keep telling these people, don't be the next me or be the next anybody else. Be the first you. So find that unique value add that you bring on stage, or you bring in terms of articulation or communication. For some people, it could just be that smile and empathy. They may not be very strong in terms of data, but the way they empathize with you, you flowed and you agree with their point of view. Some people are very highly analytical. You may not naturally get that empathy with them, but the way they keep data in front of you, put forth data in front of you, is so analytical that you are convinced. Some people are not empathetic or analytical, but they are highly inspirational. They have a big knowledge base. They quote from various sources. They quote testimonials. They have facts, evidences, say from history, from current affairs, from geography. I mean, from so many places. So this is another technique. So each of them embrace their own strength, and when you embrace your own strength, you end up convincing an audience. It's as simple as that. We focus our energy on areas which we are always weak in. That's how the education system is designed. That's how skill building is designed. So when you go to a specialist on building communication or public speaking skills, they would tell you you're weak in body language or your hand gestures, so let's concentrate in that. Seldom do you hear people say you're very strong in your ability to organize a structure speeches, so build on that. So I'm a proponent of finding out strengths and building on them, and in parallel, as a byproduct, build on their weakness as well. So that's what I would advise people. Find out your own unique selling proposition, just like you would do for a product or your service, and create a brand for yourself. And this is not a brand that you need to put up on social media. This is a brand that you see yourself in your own eyes, right? The way I see myself now is very different from the way I saw myself, say, 5 years ago. As a public speaker, the way I saw myself 5 years ago is a guy who wanted to win trophies, who wanted to get the clap, standing ovation. The way I see myself now is very different from that. The way I see myself now is a person who wants to change lives, who wants to create impact, inspire people to act differently, feel differently, do things differently, or think differently. And there's a brand that I've created in my own mind. And when you create a brand in your own mind, it reflects almost always in the way you carry yourself, in the way you speak, and the audience realizes it as a byproduct. You don't need to really announce it to them. And that's what I would urge everybody to do. And when you do that, whether you're doing your MBA or whether you're working in a company or whether you're still applying for an MBA, you become very genuine as a person. And irrespective of what your background is or how blessed you are already with the gift of the gab, I would find you as an effective communicator, because you're speaking in a more self-realized manner rather than just trying to be someone else in front of me.
That's a lot of learning, not just flowing out of your intelligence or your experiences, but we also see a lot of wisdom coming to us from you when it comes to understanding the importance of public speaking. What are its getting a sneak peek into the principles of public speaking, and realizing that public speaking is a skill that is important to each and every one of us in our daily life, or when we face problems within families or at workplace, in fact, everywhere. Thank you so much, sir, for guiding us. And I'm sure our audiences learn a lot about putting their careers and their lives into a fast track.
My pleasure.